Hello friends, my name's The Real Emil. So, Volkswagen haven't really had a sports car in the past couple of years, and well, it's easy to see why they haven't really bothered. Back in 1980, they invented the Golf GTI Mark I, which showed the world that to be a sports car, you don't need a huge engine and a big low-down suspension that breaks your back over each hump, and have to give up stuff like reliability and family in order to have one. Nope, you can have all them things rolled into one small package. And well, Volkswagen have kind of had a huge stake in the hot hatchback scene ever since. The closest you can really get to a sports car with Volkswagen is this. This is the Volkswagen Scirocco R, which is a more powerful version of the standard Scirocco. And well, on the face of it, it doesn't really sound much like a sports car at all. It has front wheel drive and has 261 horsepower, 258 pounds-feet of torque, and weighs about 3,000 pounds. This would make it seem more like a hot hatchback. However, you can't really say it is, because it has more of a coupe design, and well, Volkswagen already cater to the hot hatchback scene with the Golf GTI. So, what really is the point of this car? And more to a point, considering Volkswagen's other R-driven car, is there really even any point of this car at all? Now, if you want a powerful Volkswagen, and you don't really like the look of the Scirocco, you could always have one of these. This is the Volkswagen Golf R, which is again a more powerful version of the standard car it's based on, in this case the Volkswagen Golf. And it's even more powerful than the standard Volkswagen Golf GTI. On paper, the Scirocco and this have very similar stats. This has 6 more horsepower at 267, and weighs 200 pounds more than the Scirocco, which should make these pretty even. However, the Golf has one thing more in its hat than the Scirocco, and that's that this car features a 4-wheel drive system, which means more weight. However, it should get off the line quicker and should be much better out the corners than the standard Scirocco. Another interesting thing about this car is it has a more central weight distribution, which should make it much better through the corners. Now, class-wise, the game positions the Golf slightly higher than the Scirocco. Both are in mid-C class, with the Golf being C451, which makes it pretty much straight middle of C class. But how will these cars perform on a track, and which one will come out on top? That's the question. To find out, I took these to a racetrack, and I'm going to find out for you now. So, as it was the highest of the PI between the two vehicles, and because I generally prefer the Golf over the Scirocco, I decided it'd be a good idea to take the Golf out first. And well, as I mess up this first corner, I could not get used to this first corner. Oh, how wrong was I? This is not a very fun car to drive. I was sort of expecting this to be understeery, but alright. I mean, it's a 4-wheel drive car, it's relatively not that powerful, it has got a short wheelbase, so I was sort of, you know, expecting understeer. I wasn't expecting stuff like that to happen. This car is a bit twitchy and quite a bit slidey actually. I was not expecting that from the Golf R. I thought it'd be a lot more planted than it actually turned out to be, which around a track like this, with lots of corners, especially lots of medium speed corners, it affects it quite a lot actually. And another thing I wasn't expecting, this Golf R is sort of a track bred small car, if you will. Basically what that means is stuff like the Corsa Nürburgring edition. Now with the Corsa Nürburgring edition, that has super hard suspension, which means it's pretty much undrivable on normal roads. I was expecting this car to have a similar suspension, however it doesn't. It really doesn't. It bobs and it weaves and it's strange. It's strange. Another thing with this as well is the brakes aren't quite as responsive as you'd like them to be. So for example, this first corner here, I was expecting to brake sort of just before the white line, but it turns out you have to brake long before the white line to actually get around it. Couldn't really get my braking points right on that. I decided with these two cars to make it more of an even match, to take them to a track I don't really know. I believe this is the Catalunya National. It's not the Grand Prix chat, this is the national one. And, you know, in the hopes that, you know, that would even these two cars out a bit and make it a bit more fair. Because if I was to be honest, you know, I do, well, probably not after this, but, you know, beforehand I preferred the Golf over the Scirocco. I wanted to make it more of a fair test. I was also having some trouble on that corner as well. That was annoying me a little bit, which it doesn't usually do. But, I mean, around here, I mean, it was okay. The problem with this car is you don't really trust it. You really don't trust this car. You want to push this car, you know, you want to push and get the good lap times, you know, and that's obviously what I was trying to do here. I'm trying to push these cars to the limit so I can get the best lap times out of them, so I can get the best results, so I can ultimately tell you which is the best one. But with the Golf, you don't feel like you have the safety to, you know. If you're going around a corner at, say, 70 mile an hour in third gear, you're like, is the back end going to slip out, you know? And if it does, will I go to correct it and will it twitch on me, you know? And I think I early braked into this. But yeah, I mean, you can see how much the car dives through the corners, you know, you don't expect it. And it is just not a very trustworthy car. You know, usually I like my cars to be predictable, you know. If the rear is going to slide out, you know, I would like that to be predictable. I don't want a car which is sort of hugely grippy and then just loses grip halfway through the turn, you know. If you're going to lose grip, you know, I want to lose grip when I know I'm going to lose grip. And this car, look, it's like there, you know, you'll take that corner and then all of a sudden the back end will kick out and you're like, wait, and if you try and put any corrective lock on, it's just going to flip on you and you're just going to end up twitching off, and that's just not good. I mean, this game cars twitch a lot more than they did back in Forza 4, sorry. And you really have to watch out for that, especially with four-wheel drive cars with short wheelbases like this one. It's a bit of a weird one, and actually you'll see that in a minute. So anyway, I slide into that corner, come out there, and this is a pretty cool shot, and a cloud of smoke. Yeah, I might have slightly lost control of that, and it's just the car. You seem to lose control of this car so easily, and I didn't really like it. I've got to be honest, it was quite a terrifying experience, which is strange. So next we come on to the Scirocco, and I wasn't really sure what to expect of this car. Yes, it's front wheel drive and it has 260 horsepower, which is asking the front wheels to do a lot. Well, not in the case of modern hot hatchbacks, but in general, 260 horsepower, that's a lot to ask front wheels to do. I mean, not as crazy as Ford, but we'll get onto that later. Now, I wasn't expecting this car to be so much nicer to drive than the Golf than it was. And it has one key advantage over the Golf, which is simple. You can trust this car, apart from that. Yeah, I messed up, but you can trust this car, you know. In the Golf, if you was in third gear, 70 mile an hour, going around a corner, you didn't know if it was going to oversteer, which would then have made it twitch, which would then have turned it into understeer. You didn't know what the car was going to do. This car, you get a rough idea of what it's going to do. It's probably going to understeer, or in some weird cases it'll stick. This car is, well, actually I say it's going to understeer. It's not that bad, the understeer. Admittedly, I was probably noticing it more in this car than the Golf, because this car only understeers as well as the Golf. You have to contend with everything else. This car only does one thing, which is good. But yeah, you can trust this car, you know. If you throw it into a corner and you don't think it's going to stick, chances are it won't. It's going to do exactly as you expect it to, this car, which is what I really like about it. Apart from the brakes. Now, I don't know what it is with these two Volkswagens, but the brakes just don't feel that sharp, or at least as sharp as they should. It will surprise you how little braking you have at times, but at the same time, every time I was finding I was trying to compensate for that, I'd overcompensate for it. I don't know, maybe it's just because I haven't driven a car without race brakes in ages, but it's like through there, actually, sorry, yeah, getting off track a minute. In the Golf, that would have just oversteered or twitched. In this, you can push it through there and you have certainty. Apart from that, yeah, the brakes just don't feel sharp. It does understeer a little bit, but overall it is so much nicer to drive than the Golf. So after throwing both cars around Catalunya for 5 laps, I recorded the best lap times of the 5 laps, and I have the results here of which one was the quickest. So the Golf did a 1 minute 30.63, and the Scirocco did a 1 minute 29.945. Now that means these cars are extremely close, and if I was to hazard a guess, if you were to take that Golf around for a good few more laps, you could probably match the Scirocco's time and beat it. But then again, if you spent more time in the Scirocco, you could get faster and faster. Overall, I would hazard a guess, it depends on the track. If we're talking more of a track with lots of straights and whatnot, I believe the Golf would be faster than the Scirocco. However, because it doesn't understeer as much, or rather it isn't as random, I think the Scirocco would probably have it on the short tracks. So really, at the end of the day, which one would I recommend? Well, if you asked me before today which one I would recommend, I would say the Golf. However, after driving both of them, I would definitely say the Scirocco now. The Scirocco is just much more controllable and isn't quite as random. Although I will say, the Scirocco is no Honda Civic. It's not a particularly nice car to drive. I reckon with some modifications it could be, but it wouldn't be my choice as a C-Class car. Anyway, I want to thank you all for watching, and until next time, farewell.